On today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast, does Sony have a plan for their Marvel-verse with all the Marvel characters that they're in control of? Also, a lot more people are signing up for commercial-supported streaming services instead of the ad-free version. We'll discuss that and why. Brand new trailer for the new Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese film, Killers of the Flower Moon. Also, Mission Impossible has their full reviews out, and the reviews are outstanding right now. Also, Doctor Strange apparently is going to be appearing in a 2024 MCU film. Which one could it be? That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show. Coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio here, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, and streaming. Not just giving you our opinions, but giving you information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or completely different from ours. Joining me in studio over here, we got Ray Ora.
Hey.
Of course, Jonathan Voico is here.
Hey, everybody.
And also joining us today, writer, director, producer, host of Designing Hollywood, which you can see right here on our YouTube channel, and also host of the Robservations YouTube channel. Robert Meyer Burnett is here.
Yeah.
Is this your first time here?
Have
you ever visited our studio
You know, it's
before?
funny. I look around, but you know, John, I feel like I saw this place once in a dream. It's strangely familiar to me.
It's almost like you're Paul Atreides. You had visions of the deserts of Arrakis.
It's prophecy, man. It's prophecy.
All right, guys, listen, we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about here today, and we're not going to waste any time. We're going to dive right into it, and we're going to start with this. Now, some time ago, I can't remember which the first one was. I mean, Hulu for a long time has offered a commercial plan for the Hulu services, but most of the other streaming services have been straight up, hey, you pay for the plan, it's an ad-free experience. You don't watch commercials. But slowly but surely, other streaming services started to introduce a cheaper plan that includes commercials. Netflix does it. Disney Plus is introduces. Peacock does it. Paramount does it. All that kind of stuff now. Now, it's funny because when the news of that first started coming out that some of these streaming services are going to be trying it, the response from our audience at any rate was pretty much universally, hell no. No, I don't want commercials. No one's going to sign up for commercials. And I didn't completely disagree with our audience either when they were saying, oh, I'm never going to do that. I don't want to have commercials when I'm watching my thing. No way, no how, not going to happen. And I kind of thought that would be true. I thought maybe, some people would write and say maybe 5% would sign up for the commercial supported plan, maybe less than that. Well, according to a new report, and this comes to us from the folks over at IndieWire, a lot of people would rather watch a slightly cheaper version. They're saying up to 1/3 of people signing up for streaming services now are signing up for their commercial plans. The article says this: according to Antenna, 25% of all premium SVOD subscriptions, Netflix, Max, Disney Plus, Hulu, Paramount Plus, Discovery Plus, and Peacock, includes advertising. This does not include Apple TV and Amazon Prime Video because they don't have that option. But out of all those, 31% of new Paramount Plus subscribers in 2023 elected to pay less and watch commercials. For Disney Plus, the rate was 36%. Discovery Plus is the closest to an even split, with 43% opting to sit through commercials and save a bit. To date, in 2023, just 18% of Netflix subscribers, still, that's a lot higher than I thought it would be. 18% of Netflix subscribers choose an ad-supported plan. Per Antenna, Max is 21%. The most premium of the SVODs remain premium. Okay, so that brings up the question. Rob, I remember we talked about, is anybody gonna opt for the commercial plan? And again, we asked our audience, was like, no. But they're saying like 1 out of every 3 people is signing up for the commercial plan. It's not like there's a huge price difference between what you pay for the commercial plan and what you pay for the full premium. What do you attribute as being some of, or maybe the main reasons why so many people are actually going for the commercial plan?
Well, I think, simply put, if you're getting, one plan, you might not save that much money. But if you've got 4 plans or 6 plans in a
saving
household,
$5 or $6 per plan can add up.
Yeah, and you think about it, that's a tank of gas, depending on what streaming services you have. And with inflation the way it is, and it's not, since everything is going up. I've noticed even in my own life, if you go to McDonald's, the price of McDonald's has like doubled. Not that I go to McDonald's much.
I do.
But I went to McDonald's the other day and I'm like, wait a minute, it costs how much for a Big Mac and some fries and a Coke? I'm like, what? And so I think across the board, if you can save, and especially over the course of a year, you know, however much you save, it can add up. And when you think about it, I mean, your electricity bill, like 1 month of electricity might be paid by the savings you get off buying an ad-tiered streaming service instead of going no ads. And I think a lot of people are, I mean, I never thought I'd be a penny pincher, but I've started to become one. And if I have Mr. I'll buy a hot toy instead of eating, then someone else is definitely going to be pinching pennies when they're looking at their household budgets.
By the way, did you see that Jazz Inc., the Batman Batmobile?
Oh,
wow.
Come on, dude.
Wow.
You know what I got coming from Jazz Inc.?
The Batmobile?
The snow speeder.
Oh, nice.
The one thing you brought up there that is really a great point is the accumulative effect, right? It's not just that we're talking about saving $5 on Paramount. A lot of people, I think they said the average people who have a streaming service have 3. And I know, like, I have like 7. I know some people who have like every single one. And if you save, like, say, argument's sake, $5, you could be saving $30 a month or $360 a year. I think the other thing is that I think a lot of people underestimated, including us, how just used to we are still to the classic cable model, which is we're used to watching commercials during a show, right? And maybe some people are finding it's not that big of a deal to go that way. I mean, I actually have my Hulu plan is now a commercial plan. That's only because I forgot to renew for my premium. But I realized as I was watching a show on Hulu recently and the commercials were playing, I realized, oh wait, I didn't even realize and notice that commercials were
with
playing.
Hulu, because a lot of it is cable based. You're kind of like, well, this is how it would be on TV, you know? But I do it for Peacock and for Paramount.
Yeah, I think I could switch to a couple of them. I still prefer having my ad-free kind of experience. But, you know, we've talked a lot over the past 2 or 3 years about the fact that that myth that we all had 7 or 8 years ago, that once all television moves to streaming, we're going to pay so much less than we are for cable. And of course, we realize we're actually paying more than we used to for cable.
Well, and also too, John, it's, you know, at our house, there's a lot of people coming and going.
Yeah.
And so when we're watching something, like if I'm watching a movie on a disc or watching a film on Netflix, people want to, I need to go to the bathroom and I have to stop it anyway, which is annoying me to no end. But like I'll watch Paramount Plus, like you said, Paramount Plus. I never paid, I'm getting it through Amazon. I like the ads because I only usually watch stuff on Paramount with somebody else, like Elizabeth. And she's like, can you stop it so I can get up? And I'm like, no. But when there's an ad, there's
it's a natural break.
Yeah, and it shows you have 93 seconds left. And she's like, oh, I can run to the bathroom, or I can run to the kitchen and get more water.
I do like that feature that when the commercials play, they actually tell you, although it can be depressing because sometimes it'll come, you have 2 ad spots left or whatever. You have 218 seconds left. I'm like, what? Like there's sometimes a poor man. Anyway, guys, whatever you think, are you subscribing to the commercial plan, to the ad-free plan? What's working for you? All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this. You know, the movie that's out right now and that I consider personally be the best movie of the year that has been in cinemas this year is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It has had a remarkable run at the box office. It's still in its 5th week at number 3 on the weekend box office charts. Whereas the first film made $300 and some odd million, this movie has already crossed the $600 million mark and has already become the number 1 all-time Sony animation box office film, passing The Smurfs, which nobody ever thought that record could be beat, but there we have it. But while this is a huge success for Sony and their Marvel characters that they have, one can kind of ask, what is the plan? Like, what's their designs? What's their roadmap for their Marvel character-centered universe that they have over there? And that is the topic of today's Mint Mobile hotline question of the day. Listen, guys, if you've got a question for either some of our videos on YouTube or our podcast, go ahead and call it in anytime 24/7 at 951-268-4259. And once again, today's question is about what's Sony's plan here?
Hello, John. This is Isaiah. And my question for you is, we know that the MCU is building towards Secret Wars, and we know that James Gunn has an 8 to 10 year plan. But what is Sony's plan for their Marvel universe? We had the Venom movies, Morbius, and Across the Spider-Verse films, but it doesn't seem to be leading anywhere. What are your thoughts? Thanks for bringing on the show, Pete.
All right, Isaiah, thanks a lot for calling that in, man. And yeah, listen, I'll tell you right now, there are a number of these Sony films that I really like. You know, Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse. I love the first Venom. I liked Venom 2 as well, not as much as the first one. Morbius. We can talk or not talk about Morbius.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the Craven movie. I think that movie's got some potential. Also, a number of red flags that we've seen in the trailer, but I'm excited to check it out and see it. But the question is, what's the plan here? What's the direction? Because even when you take the movies that I have liked, when you look at it as a collective whole of Sony's Marvelverse, there doesn't really seem to be a coherent direction that they're going in or a coherent plan. And I would agree with that. I think that's true. I would also suggest, I don't know if that matters all that much. Bear me out here. Hear me out. So you can look at the MCU, right? The MCU has a plan. I mean, Kevin Feige's always got a plan. And having a plan did not stop Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania for sucking. Having a plan didn't stop She-Hulk from being dolefully unfunny. Having a plan the plan didn't help. You look at, DC, they had a plan, but they were never really able to get off the ground ever since its inception and live up to the potential that it's had, right? Now, I also want to take you back to the old Fox days. I used to joke around here that etched in marble on the hallowed halls of Fox are the words, with X-Men, continuity, schmontinuity. And it really didn't matter. They put out some great films. They also put out some not so great ones. But I would say this. I don't think Sony really does have a plan right now overall. And that might not be a bad thing. I don't mind the notion of a studio like Sony saying, we are just going to approach every single movie, for now, as its own individual thing and try to make that movie as good as we can. And if they do that for Spider-Verse and it works, great. If they do that for Venom and it works, great. If they do that for Morbius and it doesn't, I'll tell you what, Morbius could have fit in perfectly with an overall plan, and Sony wouldn't have prevented that movie from sucking ass, right? It still would have sucked, no matter what. So a good movie's a good movie, a bad movie's a bad movie. So I don't know if I'm so worried about whether it's a plan. Because here's the thing, Rob, I don't know if you heard, there's a Madam Web movie coming. And
really?
when it comes out, if that movie is good and I like the movie, I'm personally not going to be sitting in the theater wondering, but how does this connect to Craven? Like, I'm not going to worry about that. And if the movie's bad, but shows tons of connections to Venom and Craven, it ain't going to salvage it for me. So I don't know, when you sit back and you look at what admittedly looks kind of like a hodgepodge of projects we've had coming out of Sony regarding their Marvelverse, do you see a grand design in there? Do you see a plan? If yes, if no, and then how important is that to you, do you think?
Well, I kind of do. I mean, it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day, and you have, we've got Venom and Carnage. You have Morbius, even though Morbius wasn't great. And now we've got Craven the Hunter and Madam Web. Well, what we have here is a pantheon of characters that are all, in a certain respect, maybe Madam Web not so much, but can be considered that way, Spider-Man villains. I think they're setting up for a conflagration between all of these characters in Spider-Man. That's what I think that they're going to do. Whether it's Tom Holland's Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man or Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. And I think they haven't announced
Or Miles Morales?
Or Miles Morales, too. I mean, although I think that Miles Morales so far belongs only, even though they've talked about a live-action movie, they still have, obviously, Across the Spider-Verse is doing very well. They have a sequel coming to that. So that's probably, I don't know how many years away that is.
Yeah.
So I want to say Miles Morales is going to belong to that at least until the third one
I agree.
comes out. But I do think that they're setting up, and I would imagine that because of what Madam Web is and what her character is, that the end of the Madam Web movie is going to set up or lead into whatever this confrontation is going to be. I would imagine that because you're going to have Venom 3. Maybe it's Venom 3 will be the movie
which
set
they're
that.
shooting right now.
Yeah, and I would think that makes sense because even though Morbius wasn't a very good movie, if Morbius was part of a pantheon of villains that are going after Spider-Man for whatever reason, I'd see that. Venom, Carnage, Madam Web, Morbius, Kraven, Rhino. I mean, that could be cool.
Now,
Depending
the
on what it
problem
is.
they have, though, is that a number of those characters they have set up as not villains, right? Like Venom is a hero. I mean, an anti-hero maybe, but a hero nonetheless. It looks like, well, Morbius was definitely the hero. We had Kraven looks like they're setting up to be an anti-hero. And now you got Carnage, Rhino. So I don't know if they're maybe setting up a 2-team thing where you have like maybe a Venom and a Kraven teaming up against.
Or if Spider-Man leads that team against somebody else that we haven't met yet.
That could be interesting.
I would rather see it the way that it seems to be. All of them are sort of like liked anti-heroes.
Right.
And then, they're going after Spider-Man.
But why would they go after a good guy like Spider-Man?
But it'd be such a cool thing to do. It's like something wrestling would do. Like they would build up a guy to be like so likable, and then all of a sudden he turns on the top
could
guy.
they do something like Spider-Man gets framed and the world thinks he's evil, and
There you go.
so you get kind of like a reverse
He's a menace.
situation where all these hero characters are going after Spider-Man? I don't know. Maybe that's a stretch.
I mean, I'll tell you something else. This is a wild conspiracy theory. And I don't put any credence in this. But they are making Avengers Secret Wars.
yeah.
And they do need lots of characters
I was
in
kind of
Avengers
thinking
Secret Wars.
that direction too.
Yeah, and what if the anti-heroes were taken and they're on the side of the villains? And you just add, we've already had a Sony crossover, so in Secret Wars, the more characters the merrier. And if it's however they get to Battle World, if they take all those Sony characters and put them on the side of the villains to fight.
I want to throw something at you. Just one of our viewers wrote this in, and it caught me by surprise and it made me think. What would you think, and this is a side, we're going off on a tangent here just quickly, but what would you think if in Secret Wars, if the role of Molecular Man was replaced with Scarlet Witch? Somebody brought that up, and I went, at first I'm like, then I thought, oh, wait a minute.
That's interesting.
That could be quite, and when you look at her reality manipulating powers and stuff like that.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I can't imagine they're going to bring the Beyonder into but because that was the first Secret Wars, and then you have the Battle World Secret Wars. I mean, what are they going to do? I just can't imagine the Beyonder because I keep thinking they'll get David Hasselhoff to play him, and that's never going to happen. You never know.
Hey, if James Gunn was running Marvel, they could possibly do that. Yeah. All right. Let's move on from that now, guys, to our next topic here, shall we? And our next one is this. Quite a change of gears, but a good one. You know, one of the movies that I think for a lot of cinephiles has been on a top 10 or many people's top 10's most anticipated movies of the year list has got to be the new Martin Scorsese, working with his two main muses throughout his career, Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, in Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, we got our first look at the film a little while ago. Today they dropped a full trailer online of Killers of the Flower Moon. And I'll tell you what, between Oppenheimer, Dune 2, and now Killers of the Flower Moon. And look, I got to admit, I've started to get excited about Barbie. I don't know, but I am. I'm starting to get excited about Barbie. Anyway, we've got some absolute killer movies lined up here. And this, I'll tell you what, I wanted to see this before, and I was excited because of the names. You change the names on this trailer. Take out Scorsese's name, take out DiCaprio's name, take out Robert De Niro's name. And I just saw the trailer. I am still dying to see this movie after this trailer. I thought this had tension to it. It looks like Leonardo DiCaprio is at the height of his powers. You can feel the conflict and this was a brilliant trailer in so many ways that I felt like it really communicated the DNA of the movie. You understand the basic idea about what this movie is about. They're showing off, oh yeah, guys, we got two mutant actors here at the height of their powers, just going at it here. This thing looks crazy good. Rob, you had a chance to see this trailer this morning. What did you think about it?
Well, like you, I was stunned by it, knocked out. You know, when you see a virtuoso director working with all of his great collaborators, I mean, every shot in this trailer was stunning. I mean, the composition, all of it. I mean, it looks like, you know, we don't get great American. This is a true story, a very tragic story, but we don't get these great American historical epics anymore because they're either relegated to TV or they're just not getting made. And to see a studio, I guess, you know, it's Apple that financed this. And to see them come out swinging like this, I mean, clearly this looks like it's Oscar caliber. And the fact that we're getting two major historical epics from two powerhouse directors, and a future historical epic in Dune 2. I mean, I love the fact that we're getting something like this because this is why I go to the movies. You know, to see somebody, you know, Scorsese, we've got Ridley Scott, Scorsese, we've got, Nolan.
Jesse Plemons pops up at the end of it, and I'm like, whoa.
I didn't realize he was in that.
Neither did I.
No, but to see these kinds of things, I mean, these are, how many master filmmakers do we have that have been making movies since the late 60s?
Yeah.
And it just, it shows in every frame. And De Niro, when I first heard his voice, John, I was like, is that Robert? Like, he's playing a part. He's not resting on his laurels like I'm Robert De Niro and I'm walking into this movie. He's playing it. I want to see this character. I can't wait.
What it's not Mosquito Coast. What's the one Robert De Niro's the villain in with where he's in the movie theater?
Cape Fear.
Yeah,
Cape Fear, right? It wasn't Mosquito Coast, Cape Fear. It's been a while since we've seen Robert De Niro in a really good villain role. And just from the looks of this trailer,
Max Cady.
This looks so good. Looks so good. Jonathan, you had a chance to check out this trailer too. What was your impressions of it?
Okay, so the first trailer, it set that kind of tone.
Yeah.
Kind of set the stage of where we are, what's happening, in terms of not detail, but in terms of struggle between the Native Americans and the white wealthy bankers or whoever they are, oil men. This, I mean, it cranked it up with this, like, I don't want to say strange, but very interesting crossover of a Native American music or song, but with some kind of acid beats over it. It kind of lets you know this isn't just going to be some boring, like, sitting in a rocking chair trying to figure out a mystery. Like, there's going to be action in this. There's going to be tension. I'm really excited for it. And just what we've seen with the cast in this trailer, it ups my excitement. I was going to see it anyway.
Yeah.
But like, okay, I'm going to see it because it's Scorsese and the cast. But like you said, but now, you know, you have my curiosity.
Now you have my attention.
Yeah.
I was just waiting for him to say that.
And this story is, if memory serves, it's about the formation of the FBI as well. So like when Jesse Plemons comes and wanting to solve the crime. I mean, I'm not clear on my history on this. That's another thing about this kind of film. In a way, I don't know why I equate it this way, but like, remember the Watchmen TV series began with the destruction of Black Wall Street? That was a period of history that not many people knew about. You know, and I remember when the show debuted, I was going back and reading about it, going, was that real? And it was worse than it was even depicted on the TV show. But I love when a movie like this comes out. Suddenly I find myself diving into the history and reading about both sides and what happened. And I love when that becomes a thing, because I think that this is an important story in American history, and to see it portrayed in this grand fashion, I mean, I love that because I grew up watching historical epics and loving them.
All right, guys, listen, we do have a couple of more things that we need to get to. We're going to talk about the reviews that have been coming out for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which are insanely good. Benedict Cumberbatch apparently saying that Doctor Strange is going to pop up in an MCU movie in 2024, and your questions. But before we get to all those things, we're going to take a minute here and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at HelloFresh and my mobile service provider, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. And HelloFresh gets that you want options when it comes to what you make for dinner, not just the same old thing all the time. And that's why they offer 40 recipes to choose from every single week. So you'll never get bored and can always find something new to try and love. And when you need dinner fast, don't just call for delivery. Think of HelloFresh. HelloFresh. Their fast and fresh recipes are ready in just 15 minutes or less. Plus, HelloFresh is 25% cheaper than takeout. Ann and I are both working professionals, and so whenever it comes to dinner time, we're always struggling with whether we should get takeout. But with HelloFresh, it makes preparing dinner together fun, easy, delicious, and nutritious. We absolutely can't live without it. So guys, right now, go to HelloFresh.com/Campea50, that's Campea50, and use the promo code Campea50 for 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/Campea50 for 50% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. From the gas pump to the grocery store, your utility bills and favorite streaming services, inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, there's one company out there that's giving you a much needed break. It's Mint Mobile. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know that ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've been saving almost 70% a month over my old phone plan. For people looking for extra savings this year, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at HelloFresh and Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's pick it up here with this. You know, over a year ago, they showed us at CinemaCon, not this most recent one, but like a year and a couple of months ago at CinemaCon, they showed us this big feature presentation about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. We've talked a lot about on the show about how they showed us this big little documentary they put together about the motorcycle stunt of, you know, Tom Cruise slinging himself off a cliff on a motorcycle, which he did hundreds of times to make sure they got the shot right. All the other footage they showed us, there's a new featurette out online about them doing the train stunt, is out and online right now. Just crazy, crazy craziness. But I remember coming out of CinemaCon last year, we were all like, guys, this movie's going to be bonkers. Like, this movie's going to be crazy, crazy good. And as of right now, the reviews, the full reviews come out, because early reactions are one thing, but the full reviews are now out. And Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is currently sitting at a franchise best, with 86 reviews counted, at 98%. Now, if you want to put that into historical context, if we go back to, say, let's start at Mission Impossible 3, had 76%, which is a very solid score for any movie anyway. Then Ghost Protocol in 2011 jumped to 93%. Rogue Nation in 2015 jumped to 94%. Fallout in 2018 jumped to 97%. Now, we've got 97% here for Dead Reckoning because we made this graphic a little bit earlier today, but that number has now gone up from 97 to 98. So we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies in a row with the critic scores, which were already high, getting higher and higher and higher. And this movie is looking just absolutely bonkers. If we actually go over and take a look at what some of the critics are saying, they're saying things like this. The Irish Times saying, Christopher McQuarrie, who is, of course, the director of the film, puts enough bloody crunch into the action to dispel any suggestions of creeping comic decadence, I should say. Top flight supporting performances also help. RogerEbert.com writes, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is just incredibly fun. It feels half its length and contains enough memorable action sequences for some entire franchises. The Film Verdict writes, a throwback to an era when summer movies represented something distinct from what studio produced for the other 9 months of the year. Dead Reckoning offers 163 minutes worth of adrenaline and excitement that never overstays its welcome. Mashable writes, if you're a fan of the franchise, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 will pull you to the edge of your seat and thrill you down to your bones. That's just science. I love that line. That's just science. little Ron Burgundy there. Anyway, it goes on and on and on. Because, Rob, we had Scott Manson here the other day too, and he had already seen it a couple of times. And off camera, he didn't want to say too much on camera because the embargo hadn't lifted yet. But off camera, he was just raving about it. And that's the thing. Remember, we always tell people the 98% of Rotten Tomatoes is not saying that this is a near perfect movie. It is not a score. The Rotten Tomatoes meter is not a score. It's just a representation of how many of a statistical fact. How many people like it? That's it. The 98% don't necessarily love the film. It's just saying they like the film. But when we read the reviews, Rob, when we actually get into the individual critics, they are loving this movie. People are losing their minds, which to those of us who were at that CinemaCon a couple of years ago, we're not surprised to hear it, but you're still hearing these things. What's your response to these reviews we got coming out here?
Well, I think what's really interesting to me is, Chris McQuarrie wrote The Usual Suspects, which came out in 1995. He won an Academy Award for that screenplay.
One of my all-time favorite movies.
And then he did Way of the Gun, which was his directorial debut, which was actually a really respectable film, but it wasn't huge. McQuarrie met Tom Cruise on Valkyrie, which he wrote.
And which I think is Cruise's most underrated film.
It's an underrated film, really well made. And after that, Cruise and McQuarrie developed a relationship. They did the first Jack Reacher together. They went on. McQuarrie was a producer and writer on Top Gun Maverick. On all of the movies like Oblivion, I know that McQuarrie wrote. When they started working together as director and actor, they've created, I think, a frothy, heady mix that is unique in cinema history. The same way like when Scorsese works with DiCaprio or De Niro. McQuarrie is a very smart guy. He lives and breathes cinema, as does Tom Cruise. I think the two of them together are incapable of doing something other than A-list, top-flight, true cinematic entertainment that is both intelligent and thrilling. And I don't see any director-actor combination that can provide what they're providing. And we've watched it evolve. I mean, John, I went back and watched Rogue Nation, and I forgot how smart that movie actually is. And Fallout and and the next one, I went and bought the 5 or the 6 steelbooks. Of course you did. Today I bought the 6 Mission Impossible, or yesterday, the 6 Mission Impossible steelbooks, because just to have them in 4K and have the steelbooks, I'm like, this is awesome. And like, why not?
Yeah.
I'm this excited, John. I mean, because everyone's talking about it, but this is what we want. We want something that we feel we're getting a full meal that is totally fulfilling, and this is why we go to the movies.
And it's some exciting, we're getting more and more exciting news coming out too, because now you probably saw there's a report going around that Vanessa Kirby, who is in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, has been offered the role of Sue Storm. Whether that's true or not, we'll have to find out. Of course, we got Palm Clementif in there.
She's dressed as a drum majorette or whatever.
Oh, whatever she wants to.
I know.
Rob, whatever she wants to do.
Palm Clementif can dress however she wants to. But that clip they showed us at this year's CinemaCon, where like it's 15 minutes of Tom Cruise on the run from Palm Clementif.
I know. What's wrong with you, Tom?
Yeah.
I would just stop. I'd just stop running.
Let her catch you. Who cares? I mean, look, there's so much excitement going into this right now. I cannot wait to see this. And it's coming out, what do we say, July 12th?
Yeah.
Like next weekend. Like
week
this
from
weekend
tomorrow.
this weekend we've got Joyride coming out, and we've got
Insidious, The
new
Red Door.
Insidious. By the way, out of those two, go see Joyride. But then next week,
and then the week
finally
after that,
it's
just a killer's row, man.
what Ray is referring to.
No. I'm talking about Oppenheimer and Barbie too.
Yeah.
They come out.
Oh yeah,
too.
that's I thought you were talking about
TMNT.
Well,
Turtles.
everyone
Yeah.
knows. Everyone knows they need to clear away.
Well, they
from
gave
Turtles.
TMNT their own month.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to get out of
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja
It's
Turtles
going to be
way.
smarter than Oppenheimer and more action than Fallout together.
And then, of course, the $1 billion beetle.
Yeah.
The BDB. Whenever Blue Beetle's coming out, the automatic $1 billion beetle.
I'm kind of backtracking that $1 billion beat.
Really?
You might want to backtrack a few statements
I think
you've
you
made
should
on the
hold your
show.
ground on that. I think you should definitely hold your
I'll
ground
hold
on
it. I'll
Hope
hold it.
springs eternal, Ray.
Come on.
All right. With that down, guys, let's talk about this, shall we? We made a video about this earlier today on the YouTube channel. For those of you listening to the podcast, we also have a YouTube channel where we put up videos every single day. You should go check that out. But we did a video about this earlier. Doctor Strange is a really beloved character. Like when he got introduced in the first movie, I didn't know how the average moviegoer would embrace him. It was a real departure for the MCU that had never really gone into the magical realm before, right? And if you look at this comparison here, you know, the first Doctor Strange, 89% critic rating, 86% audience rating, made a really more than respectable $677 million at the box office. The second film, which granted was not as good as the first one, it had its issues, but still very respectable 74% critic rating, 85% audience rating, but it made nearly $1 billion, went up to $955 million. And even when you go to stuff like the animated series they put out, What If you ask everybody, what was your favorite episode? Almost everyone will say, well, the Doctor Strange episode. Like that's just one. A lot of people love that. They've loved the character. But the ending of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness left a lot of people wondering, when are we going to see Doctor Strange again? Because, you know, it ends off with him and Clea, and we've really heard nothing about production of a Doctor Strange 3, other than the upcoming Avengers 5 and 6. No real idea about when we could see this character again. Well, now according to this article in Deadline, their headline reads, Benedict Cumberbatch hints at Doctor Strange Marvel's return to new MCU movie next year, 2024. And I thought, well, okay, that's a surprise, and that's interesting. So we broke down, we looked at what Marvel movies are coming out in 2024, next year. Now, there were 4 movies coming out in 2024, but if you guys remember a little while ago, Marvel did a massive reshuffling of their release schedule, and we are now left with 3 MCU films coming out in 2024. Those 3 films are Deadpool, coming out on May 3rd, Captain America, and with its new title, Brave New World, no longer New World Order, because all I could think about is Hulk Hogan and the Jimi Hendrix music whenever that came out, on July 26th, and Thunderbolts on December 20th. All right, in order. If Doctor Strange is appearing in an MCU film in 2024, in order, I think the least likely one for him to appear in would be Thunderbolts. That just seems too street level for me, that movie. It doesn't seem like a place that, you know, the master of the mystic arts would come out and be in that one. It just doesn't seem to fit. Not impossible, but I would say that's the least likely one. The second least likely one, I think, is Captain America, New World Order. Now, of course, Doctor Strange and Sam have a real connection. If you think about the end of Avengers Endgame, as Cap is facing down Thanos' is an entire army solo, and you hear Sam's voice on your left. Who are the 2 heroes? It's Doctor Strange opening up the portals and Sam flying through, right? So clearly they have a connection, so it's a possibility. But I really do think that if we're going to see Doctor Strange in 2024, it's going to be in Deadpool. Simply because this Deadpool movie is shaping up to be something that absolutely anything can happen. Apparently, from all the reports we're reading, there's going to be a heavy multiverse angle to this. We even talked yesterday about there have been reports that Channing Tatum has already shot scenes that he's going to be in as Gambit in this, which is not completely unbelievable considering the history that Ryan Reynolds and Channing Tatum have. But all that aside, it seems to be that while none of these are prime candidates that I would think of Doctor Strange popping up in, out of the 3, if it was going to be one of these, I think it would be Doctor Strange. Now, one other thing I do want to point out is that I do think there's a possibility here that Deadline, other trades, and us may be misinterpreting, perhaps, Benedict's comments. Because Benedict said this. His actual comment was, there are some Marvel capers in the making next year, Cumberbatch said while being a guest on this podcast. Now that, well, the most obvious interpretation is he's going to be in a movie next year. But I want to point out that he could be saying that he could be going into production on something next year, which then opens up the possibilities, not just of 2024 films, but maybe a film in 2025, maybe 2026. I do believe he's indicating for sure that Doctor Strange is popping up before the next Avengers movies. I think that's clear. So Rob, let me ask you, if the major trades are right, and they're interpreting him as saying he's going to pop up in a film in 2024, which of those 3 films that we talked about do you think is most likely? And then the ultimate question is, Do you think maybe people are misinterpreting his words here a little bit? And maybe he could be talking about maybe a Doctor Strange 3 in 2025 or 2026, maybe one of the other Marvel projects that are coming in after 2024. What do you think?
I think that it's obviously going to be Deadpool because I don't see New World Order, the tone of it seems like it's going to be a much more serious kind of a film. When you bring Doctor Strange in, it changes the tone, whereas the Captain America movies have been fairly grounded. The three
that's
previous
true.
films. And then Thunderbolts, maybe, but Thunderbolts also is introducing a new cast of a new team brought together.
Right.
So I wouldn't imagine. It just seems to me that Doctor Strange, having dealt with the multiverse already in No Way Home, might be consulted or be in that movie. But here's something else I was thinking. He uses the word caper. And I'm thinking, well, it could be a caper inside a movie. But what if, because of all the movies other than No Way Home, Doctor Strange made the most, close to $1 billion. Well, you know when Bob Iger said, well, we have to make a sequel to this movie or a sequel to that movie, with the Marvel Universe relatively unperforming or not performing up to snuff up until Guardians.
At least by its own standards.
By its own standards. What if it was a caper? The caper is to pull off a Doctor Strange film with a compressed production schedule. And what if they make it and slot it in September, October? So you've got May, July, a middle movie, and then December's release of the Thunderbolts.
That would be ambitious because if I bring this up
to
again,
me, that was when he said caper. That's like it's Marvel themselves are pulling off this caper, a secret film they're going to make and they're going to slide in because they've got the production. I know that Thunderbolts was pushed because of the writer's strike.
well, I don't know if they ever gave an official reason why. I think we've been assuming that because it's now coming out in December.
Right. Well, what if they already had a Doctor Strange script already written or something? But I have no idea. But he used the word caper.
Yeah.
And for Marvel to pull off their own caper would be to make a Doctor Strange movie that is previously unannounced, that they're somehow getting it made.
Okay, so let's bring it.
Now, by the way, I'm pulling this out of my
I love
behind.
the theory though. So let's dive into that. So bring up this thing. Okay, so I think we would all be in agreement that with Deadpool coming out May 3rd and it already being July now, that let's say they were pulling off a heist of sorts and secretly making a Doctor Strange 3. I think we would agree that coming out before Deadpool 3 is probably not a possibility.
No.
Right? And then May, you only have 1 month between May and July. That's June and having a Deadpool 3 in May 3rd and then a Doctor Strange in June and then a Captain America in July is probably not be in the book. So you'd be looking at this gap between July, August, September, October, November, December. You got a 5-month gap there. So maybe somewhere nestled in October,
which is a Doctor Strange month, more of a horror oriented kind of a thing.
I think that's because you know what? Earlier today, when we were making a video about this, I said, you know what? I just don't think it's going to be a Doctor Strange 3. You've got me considering that maybe that's a possibility. Maybe that's a possibility. I'll still put my money on Deadpool 3 if we're talking about a 2024 film, but that Deadpool 3 option maybe somewhere around September, October, maybe. And November would probably be too close to Thunderbolts.
I mean, Charlize Theron and Benedict Cumberbatch teaming up, some kind of a buddy cop mystical, we're saving the universe from Dormammu again. I don't know, because they did go off somewhere together.
Yes, they did.
So whatever it's going to be, I mean, that's the kind of movie. Those are two stars that you make a movie with. I have no idea what kind of a movie you make. But maybe.
Yeah, that's a lot of star power
caper.
there. That's a pull. All right. Guys, I guess for you, which of those options do you like most? Which one do you think is the most realistic? We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. All right, guys. With all that down now, we're going to spend the rest of our time taking questions from our YouTube channel members. Again, like I mentioned, if you're listening to this podcast, we have a YouTube channel and we have a group of wonderful supporters known as our YouTube channel members. And every day we ask them to send us topics and questions that they may have for us. So, Jonathan, what do we got in there?
First up, we have Alan, who writes, "Happy Wednesday, everyone. The recent indie movies have not been as well received as the original trilogy. What do you guys think is missing with the last two?"
I don't think it's a matter of missing anything. I just think everybody takes, I mean, Rob, we've talked about this a lot. I think everybody just takes for granted that making good movies are easy. I mean, it's not so much what went wrong with these last two. It's like, how on earth did they pull off those first three? Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was a massive departure. Listen, I just don't know what George was thinking when when they put that one together. And I don't think Crystal Skull is a horrible movie. I just think it's a horrible Indiana Jones movie. With this one, I've been on record with what my problems with this new one are. And I like this new one. I all things considered, pros and cons, I ended up liking this movie. I just think it's the fourth best of the films. I thought they made Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character an asshole. When you start, well, I'm sorry, we'll go into spoilers, but I think they made her character an asshole. No more of an asshole than Shia LaBeouf's character was in Crystal Skull, but again, they tend to be making these new secondary characters assholes. I thought the ending was kind of anticlimactic. I thought, they had Indy doing some action that I couldn't really buy into a little bit, things like that. But, Rob, it's always the thing when you have a streak of doing the impossible, which is making great classic movie after great classic movie after great classic movie. When it comes back down to earth, we all want to go, what went wrong? I do it too. But if you were trying to put your finger on maybe an element of the last two Indiana Jones films that keep it from that classic movie level that the other three are on, what would you maybe think it is?
Well, the two things that are missing are the 1930s and the 1980s. In the 30s when the movies were set and the 80s when the movies were made. And I think that, over the course of 8 years, we had Raiders, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade. And as a trilogy, they were perfect. I mean, as an adventure, a trilogy of adventure movies.
It literally ended with them riding off into the sunset.
And, the whole thing about age and dealing with growing older was Henry Jones and the relationship that Indiana had with his father. That was the capper. And I think that, unfortunately, the other two films, the idea behind them was, okay, we can make more money with this franchise. But the thing is, they had to change. The Indiana Jones franchise was originally conceived of as being part of the serials of the 30s and 40s. By the time you got to the 1950s, there were no movie serials made anymore.
Right.
They didn't do that. So they decided, okay, we're going to now have an adventure that was based on the movies that were coming out at the time, which were creature features and 50s B movie with movies with aliens and monsters and all that. It changed what Indiana Jones was. And unfortunately, Harrison Ford got a lot older. So then they had to figure out, well, how can we work this out? And it didn't work out that well. And I think this idea, now you get to the end of Indiana Jones, and like you, I did not hate Dial of Destiny. I thought there's a lot in it to like. But do we have to deconstruct? It's like every single character. Captain Kirk was middle-aged in Star Trek II. He's deconstructed. Unforgiven. William Money, even though he was a bad guy, he's a pig farmer, and he's coming back and finding his mojo, old man. I mean, they've deconstructed all these characters and all these genres, and we're left with this one. I mean, Indiana Jones was not a happy dude at the beginning of Dial of Destiny. And the funny thing about those movies is, from the very beginning, those movies put a smile on the face of the audience. Indiana Jones was a character that it made you have fun. And if Indiana Jones isn't himself giving us fun because he's morose and sad, how are the movies supposed to work?
It's odd. One of the criticisms I agree with about the film is weird because in a lot of today's movies, sometimes the audience complains that there's too much humor. When really what it is, there's too much humor that isn't working, because there's a load of humor in, say, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I actually felt, somebody mentioned this to me and I agreed, that there wasn't enough humor in the new Indiana Jones. Like, there's a whimsy to Indiana, right?
I totally
and that seemed to be
agree.
missing a bit.
Like you say that in Raiders, the scene where they've captured Karen Allen and she's in a basket?
Yes.
Well, that scene, even the way it's shot and John Williams' score, is just like you said, there's whimsy to that. As they're running around the Cairo market. And
You got exactly the string plucks.
Yeah, the string,
Bum, 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 bum. Yeah.
And it's whimsical, it's fun, there's still peril. And the thing is, then it ends with, you think she got blown up. you know, and then it cuts to the and he's drinking. There's none of that in Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's. That was only one. We got to move on. What's next?
Okay, this one's for Ray from Joe Star Gaming. This is a question for Ray. How did you and Ann celebrate your father's birthday after passing? My birthday is on August 10th, and my dad's is August 11th. This is the first birthday without him. It's harder since it's the day after mine.
Oh, that's. Ooh. I don't know. I don't remember what we did. I think it was very painful still at that time, but I don't remember what we did. I know for sure we probably visited him.
I remember what we did.
It's just, I don't know.
First of all, like, it's still a big deal. I know it is for you too. It's
Yeah.
still a big deal for Anne every time your dad's birthday comes around. By the way, just again, Anne does not have an E on the end of her name.
Yeah.
But I think the first birthday, I think, after your dad passed, I think me, you, Anne, and your mom. Oh no, and I think I think Olive came too.
Yeah.
We went to the cemetery.
Oh yeah,
And then we went to that.
eat.
Yeah, but it was like one of those all-you-can-eat things. Your mom wanted to
'cause
go.
my dad used to love.
Because your dad was all about food, right?
Yeah, but there's a Golden Corral.
That's what it was.
He
We
would
went to
always-
Golden Corral.
Every time that commercial would come on screen and we're watching TV, he's like, "We need to go there," because he never been. I don't think he ever.
But your mom
was
loved
able
it.
to. So we went there because he never been there. Yeah, that was it. And our first trip was to Canada without
That's
him.
right.
So yeah,
Yep.
his situation's like his birthday's after.
Yeah, I
his
mean,
that's
everyone
gotta
has to
be
deal with
really,
it on
really
their own
tough.
way.
You know what? Yeah, you know what? I've learned just to just appreciate what you did have. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, I mean, I hope it is a good day for you guys. Celebrate his life. I mean, I don't know.
That's a good answer, man. That's a good answer. All right, what's next?
Okay. Chip Crisper writes, regarding the possibility of a John Wick 5, you brought up in one of your videos that you want to bring back the fear everyone has for John Wick. Why would anybody fear a dead man? He literally is the Baba Yaga now, but no one would know it yet. I'm curious your thoughts on this. Thanks. Bring on the filthy.
So for those of you, we didn't talk about it in this podcast, but we made a video about it earlier today that the director of John Wick, well, first of all, last month, the executive at Lionsgate confirmed they're going to do a John Wick 5. So it's not surprising that Chad Stahelski, the director of John Wick Chapter 4, came out in an interview today and confirmed that John Wick is alive at the end of John Wick Chapter 4. They just didn't put in the scene. They shot a scene where at the graveyard after Winston leaves, you literally see John Wick at the back, but they decided to pull that out and leave the ending more ambiguous. So they kind of confirmed that. And I said as a result that if you do a John Wick Chapter 5, you need to bring back, and I've complained, this has been my one steady complaint about John Wick Chapter 2, 3, and 4. Even though I love these movies, my one complaint is, where's that fear that everybody had at the name of John Wick in John Wick 1? Like, you just mentioned John Wick's name in the first one, and the head of the Russian mafia is afraid. Everybody is afraid of John. He's the Baba Yaga, the thing of nightmares. And then once you get to John Wick 2, 3, and 4, it's like, every low-level thing, John Wick, yeah, I'll go after John Wick. It's like, where's that fear? I think if you do a 5, you got to bring that back. And the very fact that he's back from the dead, I think needs to heighten that even more and make that more intense. You had something you wanted to throw?
Oh no, for me, I just think that in the first one, you got like the mob that's just running like that city. I think each one, we're getting higher and higher up this table, the table, and like everyone's fearless over there. The same reason why people were saying, in the first one, we did have some casualties, right? Some innocent casualties. If you notice throughout the rest of the films, not a lot of bystanders are getting killed because it's
even though the body count keeps getting higher.
Oh yeah, because they're involved in this world.
Yeah.
Anyone who's not involved in this world,
they keep
is
them out of it.
like that's why they're dancing. People are dancing and they're just watching. That's what I appreciate about John Wick. If you don't want to be in this world, no one will mess with you. You could live your life. You know what I mean? Like there's no innocent bystanders that get killed.
But they gotta get back to this idea that this underworld reveres and fears the name of John Wick. Because honestly,
missing.
After the first one's like nobody was afraid of him anymore.
It
It's
is missing.
Well, every third person is an assassin.
But even then, but after John Wick 2 and John Wick 3 and John Wick 4, it's like, hey, you know what? There have been 700 people that have gone after and
Yeah.
tried to kill John Wick, and all 700 of them are dead.
Yeah.
I mean,
And they
that's
just
gotta be
keep
like
saying,
part of it.
yeah, they just keep saying like, all right, so let's go get John Wick. Someone's gonna be like, maybe I'm out this weekend.
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna stay home and watch Star Trek.
Maybe you
or
go
something
try.
like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just do something else tonight. I don't know. Okay, what's next?
Joe Star Gaming says Joyride was so fun. I laughed so hard at the end of the K-pop scene.
I'll tell you
I
what,
didn't see it, so
Rob. I told people this story the other day, but I remember because you were sitting just behind me at the Joyride screening, and I've said that this movie has surprised me in a way that I haven't been surprised at a comedy since Hangover, which was another movie that I thought looked cute and looked funny, but I was not prepared for how the history of comedy movies was going to change with Hangover, right? It was just hilarious. And I had that same sort of feeling with Joyride, that I was expecting cute and funny. We heard good things coming out of South by Southwest. And then we saw it. And I told this story, but I remember a couple of times, I always like to look at people I'm with during comedy, see how they're reacting. And like Anne was laughing hysterically, Ray was laughing hysterically. And a couple of times during that movie, I looked over my shoulder, see how you guys were reacting. And like the 2 or 3 times I looked over my shoulder, your face was beet red with practically tears coming out of your eyes. I mean, this movie, which is opening this weekend, guys, was so damn funny. What was your reaction to it?
Dude, there's an ongoing joke about a certain piece of anatomy and a tattoo.
Oh my God.
And
payoff for that
all I'm gonna
joke.
say is they keep talking about this, and I didn't expect, like, you hear this, the payoff to this was it's a smash. It is one of the funniest things I've
And shocking.
It's shocking, and you talk. It was like that old Memorex ad that'll blow you back in the chair. You know, your hair's like. When this happened, I literally, in my life, I've seen a lot of different things in movies, gore, so I name it. This was something I did not expect, and it is so, dare I call it, ballsy. It's so ballsy that I can't believe they did it. And I in a movie, this movie delivers. If a comedy is supposed to make you laugh, that's all it's supposed to do.
Yes.
Yeah, if it's a movie like Tootsie, it can be poignant and make you laugh. This movie delivers. I mean, the laugh versus non-laugh or minutes laugh per minute
is a high ratio.
This has got a high, and the audience, dude. I mean, you go to a packed house, go Friday night, and take your friends. Man, you guys will you go to lunch or go to dinner afterwards, and you'll be telling the jokes again and laughing your asses off. This film is so funny.
By the way, I'll just throw this out there right now. Currently, Joyride is at 67 reviews and is holding a 91%. And I honestly don't know what the other 9% are missing. Because it's just so. But again, humor is the most subjective of all things. So your mileage may vary from Rob's and mine, but we really like this movie a lot. It's real funny. All right,
I think about it. I want to laugh.
I know, right? All right, what's next?
CJ Rebirth writes, what are your guys' thoughts on the ocean movies with George Clooney, Brad Pitt, etc.?
Love them.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think the first one was the strongest.
Yeah.
It's one of those rare films that I actually think it's better. The remake is better than the original.
I do too.
Like that one. What's another good one where they're, at any rate, I thought they were really fun, wonderful films. I thought they declined in quality as they went.
I actually felt like I'd rank it 1, 3, 2, but that's just me.
Yes,
Yeah. But I still like all of them.
because 2's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
And 3 was like a return to form, just not as good.
But I mean, which one was it? The one moment out of all the Ocean's films that I really think they should have done without is like the gag that Julia Roberts looks like Julia Roberts. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like that was Anyway, all right. What's next?
All right. Amin writes, so in the last 7 years, Harrison Ford has returned to an iconic character of his that we thought we would never see again. Force Awakens, Blade Runner, Dial of Destiny. Which performance of the 3 do you think was the best?
Whew. I'll tell you what.
I feel like Rob already has his answer.
I even though they could have done different things,
Yeah.
his performance as Han Solo in Force Awakens, I thought was really spot on and great. I mean, the whole, I mean, I've seen grown men cry at Chewie, we're home. Like I've literally seen grown men cry in that. I think he's great. Now, his best performance in the last 7 years is Shrinking on Apple TV Plus, but I really liked him as Indy as well, but I'll say as Han Solo. I don't know, Rob, what do you think?
Well, I think all three of those performances are all strong because I thought he was terrific in Dial of Destiny. I really did.
Yeah, I thought his performance was strong.
His performance was great. He was great as Han Solo.
Have you had to drink the blood of Kali?
That was a great line.
But I'm going to go Blade Runner only because he had a not good experience making the first Blade Runner.
Right.
And I was surprised at how much pathos and emotion he brought to Rick Deckard in that movie. I was not expecting him to turn it on as much as he did. And so I'm going to say Blade Runner only because to me that was the most surprising.
Yep, I agree. That's true. It was the most surprising. All right, what's next?
Let's see. Is Kane writes, let me just expand this a little bit. Hey, crew, yesterday on Open Mic, there was a question about Invincible, and I can confirm the next big arc of the Invincible comics does have a multiverse angle, the Invincible War, a villain trying to ruin Invincible's image using their other versions of him to create chaos and carnage. It's 100% coincidence it's happening next, but still straight from the comics and personally one of my favorite arcs.
Yeah, so somebody brought that up. I said, I don't remember. Now, I have not read a whole ton of the Invincible comics. I just remember, at some point they got to go against how do you pronounce Omni-Man's homeworld again? The Virtuites, or I can't remember how you say them. But I know at some point there's going to be a big conflict with that. I didn't remember there being a multiverse story, but apparently I had a bunch of people write to me afterwards and say there actually is a multiverse story, which I really want them to avoid. I'm so sick of all these multiverse. Everything right now is multiverse, and I'm over it. I really am. Anyway, what's next?
Speaking of multiverse, Barnes Gannon writes, John, in your opinion, what elevates Across the Spider-Verse over the first movie? I honestly can't decide which I like more.
I mean, look, they're both great. They're both incredible. And the second one does exactly what any sequel should do. It builds on the success of the original, right? And that's how it does that is incredible. The emotional moments are even more emotional. The jokes I found even funnier. The art style was even more edgy. The whole introduction of all the various characters as well. Like the first movie, I love Spider-Pig and I love Spider-Man Noir and I love Penny Parker and I love all those characters. But then you come in here and they bring you the Indian Spider-Man and Spider-Punk and and it just kind of elevated it even more. We got more of a role for Gwen, just building on the success of the Gwen thing in the first one. It's hard to define, but yeah, I would almost say, Rob, everything that Into the Spider-Verse did, they were able to build on and improve in the second one. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I agree. And I think also what differentiated Across the Spider-Verse was the art, the actual animation style. I mean, it went to a whole nother level from a visual standpoint. I was stunned by the film. I was stunned by the art style. I was stunned by how it made me feel. I mean, I've seen it twice now. I can't wait to get it on disc and just stop the movie. Like look at things frame by frame because
many
it's
flickers of images.
Amazing.
Now, again, and keep in mind, they spent $100 million to make this movie. Now, granted, making a lot of animators work 18-hour days, 7 days a week, but they made this movie for $100 million, which is crazy. All right, we got time for two more. What's next?
That Funko Dad, do you think studios will end up regretting not spacing out their releases more, given that SAG still doesn't have a deal and the WGA strike looks like it could go for a while? I know some films are in production and have finished, but it just feels short-sighted to push on like it's business as usual.
No, you have to keep going business as usual. That's just the way you have to conduct yourself. You have to. Now, listen, it looks like a SAG strike is going to be avoided, right? Like we saw Fran Drescher put out that video saying, hey, we're actually making really good progress. We're excited about the stuff we're doing. And then when they couldn't get a deal done by the deadline, instead of going on strike, they said, you know what? We're making progress. Let's extend the deadline. So they both in good faith extended the deadline. That all suggests to me that they're going to get a deal done. Whether it's a good deal, I don't know. But I think they are going to get a deal done. So that's going to be avoided. And we've said forever that the real impact of the writer's strike will not be felt for a while because you had a whole bunch of movies that are already in the can. that are still to come out. And on top of that, a lot of projects that the scripts were already finished and written that are in production right now. Some have been delayed, yes, but it's going to be a while before we feel the impact of that. So no, I don't think they needed to spread out the release dates of these movies. I think you do go on. You don't plan your things around things that might happen, right? The directors got the deal done before a deadline. It looks like SAG's going to get done. And then once that's done, then all the attention can go back to the writer's strike. And because that's the difference though, Rob. The actors go on strike, that impact's immediate. Everything shuts down. If no actors are showing up on set, you're done. Writers, we've got 100 bank scripts. We're okay for a while. So I think if they can get this actors one done, and I think they will, then now all the attention go back to the writers. And I don't know, how would you answer that?
Well, I mean, I think, look, like you said, I think you have to go ahead business as usual. And they've been able to continue to make things. The WGA has protested shoots. You know, they've shut things down for a day or two.
Daredevil's a good example of that.
Yeah, and some people have chosen to stop production entirely until that ends because it can be very disruptive and be very expensive. But I think you're right. I think they have to move forward. I mean, this is an ongoing business, and it's not just... It disrupts movie theaters. It disrupts all these ancillary businesses that are peripherally involved. So it's a huge ripple effect across many different businesses. So I think that the studios, I mean, their interest rates, they have to pay. They got to pay. I mean, money has to come in because a lot of money's been going out. So
all right, last question of the day.
Okay, we got Sheba G, who writes, "Hey John, with all the cameos lined up, do you think Ben Affleck can make an appearance as Daredevil in Deadpool 3?
There's been some reports going around that I don't know that I buy about bring that question up again there. So in Daredevil, as Daredevil in Deadpool, there's been stuff going around about maybe that happening. Listen, Ben Affleck loved playing Daredevil. And you know what? I will, till the day I die, defend that movie. You take out one of the worst scenes in comic book movie history, the teeter-totter scene. You take the teeter-totter scene out of that movie.
it's cute.
I would contend that that is a great movie. I really like that Ben Affleck.
Especially the director's cut. The longer version is
yeah.
No,
seriously. I mean, and listen, Michael Clark Duncan's versions of Kingpin, I really bought into it. Colin Farrell in it, I thought was a great villain. I mean, even Jon Favreau as
Foggy.
I almost said Happy, but that's the other one. As what's
Foggy.
Foggy as Foggy. I really like that movie. I don't see Ben Affleck doing that though. I would love to see it. I think it's maybe something like at this point in his career, Ben would say, you know what, just start doing some stuff for fun. Maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't see it happening, but I'd be all for it. What do you think? Do you think we'd see it?
The thing is, I think after seeing like Ben Affleck in the Dunkin' Donuts commercials, and him doing stuff like if Ryan Reynolds calls you up and go, dude, come down for a day because we can make jokes about Fox till the cows come home. No one's going to say anything. They could probably do something that's pretty funny, and I can just see Ryan Reynolds making Electra jokes at Ben Affleck's expense, which could be funny. I mean, and look, they're co-parenting, and if I saw Jennifer Garner show up to like get in Daredevil's face, that'd be pretty funny too. I mean, wouldn't it be?
I
would love it.
And Ryan Reynolds could make that stuff happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds right now probably seems to have like more leverage than anybody else in Hollywood to get things to happen right now. All right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for stopping by and spending part of your day here with us. Don't forget, guys, if you are listening to this on our podcast feed, make sure you go and check out our YouTube channel as well. And if you happen to check this out on the YouTube channel, don't forget, the best experience with the John Campea Show is in podcast format. Go and find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and thank you to everybody. Our numbers on Spotify have been exploding. Thank you so much to everybody for that, or whatever your favorite podcasting app of choice is. I want to thank everybody who's been in the room here with me. Of course, Ray Ora, Jonathan Voico, Robert Meyer Burnett, who you can find on the Robservations YouTube channel. Where can people find that?
On YouTube.
It's the best thing just to search for Robservations.
And also podcasts. It's wherever you get your podcasts, you can find it. And John, it's so funny to be in this room again. It really does feel like a dream.
And of course, guys, thank you so much for spending the day here with us. That'll do it for us for now. Thanks a lot for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.